Welcome to the Sunday edition of Talking Horses. Acacia Clement alongside Paul Verderosa. Kind of weird sitting in this chair. I'm not Andy Serling, by the way, but Paul, happy to be sharing the desk with you as we've got some fun Sunday racing coming up.
Yeah, got a good couple of races coming up today, despite the scratches that happened, but the weather's cleared up, so that's great. You're a little cold, but that's fine.
It's freezing in this room.
It's perfect.
The sun is shining outside. I mean, God forbid, once again, we have a weekend without rain. So rain yesterday morning, rain on Friday. We are unfortunately off the turf today. There were just 2 turf races carded, but that Carl Place, unfortunately off the turf, and the Good Allowance race as well. So we know it's been so tough, so frustrating if you have a turf horse here in New York, and for everybody that plays the races as well. Nothing you can do against Mother Nature. As of right now, the forecast looks nice this weekend. I don't trust it, but we'll see if we actually have some sunshine coming up in the next few days.
I'm going with it's going to be sunny and near 70 most of the week, so if it's wrong, I'll be your lightning rod of hate.
Well, we'll see how it'll play out, but we'll talk about today's card and want to remind everybody first, if you have not signed up with Naira Bets, now's a perfect time to do so, especially as we're getting closer to the Breeders' Cup. So that's the promo code CUP25. Sign up, get started, use promo code CUP25 for a $25 free bet plus your $200 sign-up bonus. Hit a trifecta at Belmont at the Big A, and you can get a 10% bonus. Be sure to opt in at nairabets.com. Check out the site for all the details. Middle pick 4 today. Andy will be so upset to be missing this. I know it's his favorite wager. And finally, America's Day at the races. We are on FS2 from 12:30 to 3, and then FS1 from 3 to 5. So we'll hope that you will join us for that Sunday action, and we'll get right into it. Paul, starting off with the first race, which is a New York bred maiden special weight for 2-year-olds sprinting, going 6 furlongs, and a couple ways to go. You do prefer the 7 Retail Man. We'll take a look at his first start. He did debut for Maiden Claiming.
You know, I like when horses first time out show speed. They do that heavy lifting, and they get caught sometimes. We know that, and that's what happened here. But they tend to improve off that. And in this race, I mean, I know it was against Lesser for the 30,000. He contested the pace with the eventual winner and just got collared late. So even though he's stepping up today, unless you really trust some of the firsters or maybe a horse that had some turf, background starting off, I mean, this horse is probably going to be in front in here, and with some second-time improvement, maybe he can wire the field.
And I think it's a good point, because yes, he debuted for Maiden 30, but he's not facing the toughest today. There's not a lot to sink your teeth into, though he's technically stepping up. Usually you don't expect Timmy Ryerson to win first time out, so certainly a possibility that he could improve. I'm going to take a little shot with the 6 Swept. I really am happy to see that he's been gelded, because I think that's going to help a lot. I do wish that it was him coming back in like July or August versus coming back in October, because he was one of those really early 2-year-olds that we saw in May, as Jimmy Chapman has really been known to take advantage of some of those lighter races. He was running behind the Wine Steward, who's turned out to be really good, back-to-back stakes wins, and then second in the Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity behind Locked. This horse just was so green first time out. So again, has been gelded, but he does have the layoff to contend with.
And when I saw him, he looked like he needed a start.
Yeah,
in the paddock. Like
sure.
just the way he was walking around, the way he was carrying himself, he just looked like he needed to start. And like you said, sometimes that's not like James Chapman horses, where they usually go out there and those 2-year-olds precocious, they run well. So I agree with you. He's got a shot in here. And again, you would have liked to have seen him come back a little sooner, maybe something missed, or they just gave him a little time to grow up as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
As far as you touched on some turf form, the 2 Rob the Bank actually ran quite well in the turf on debut at a huge price, took a lot more money last time, and he'll probably be kind of middle of the road today, because you just don't know how he'll handle the main track.
The one thing I did like about him was looking at him, he was built to be a sprinter. So it looks
yeah,
like
definitely.
that. So I think the surface switch is going to help him, because I think the way he looked and the way he was built, it says dirt more than it says turf. I know he's got Central Banker there. So we'll see what happens. The last workout was good. So hopefully he'll get a nice little trip. He's going to show a little bit more speed, though, I think, to be a little bit closer, because I think they're all going to chase the 7 unless the one from the rail is going to show a little bit of speed.
Yeah, that number one, probably the first time starter we had some interest in. Gold Fire debuting for the Nota Bar. New York bred 2-year-olds to kick off the day as we will go a mile and an eighth in race 2 for $25,000. And as is always the question with these races, who actually wants the distance? We'll see who's able to handle it. You did like the number 3, 6%. So let's start there. We'll take a look at his race back in June, which was 2 starts back when finishing 3rd behind Daddy Knows.
So I know he can get the distance, and he needs to break and get a trip in here. And he's got back efforts that are much better and faster than a lot of these. That last start just really bothers me, first start off the layoff. I do want to give him one more chance. I know, you know, at the break there, it looks like his back end got a little bit out from under him. I'm not going to make an excuse for that because he just ran terribly after that. He didn't fire his best race. He's run well fresh before, so that bothers me off the layoff. But I want to give him one more shot against this group today. I know he's a little bit up against it pace-wise. Some of them are. But he's got those back races. I just want to give him a chance in here. And now, I mean, with a couple of scratches in here, I guess he's going to be second choice because I think they're going to bet Just Cole Ray. We'll see what happens.
He's a tricky horse. I agree. It's definitely true that you could tell he wants the distance. And you could say, okay, he was off of a layup, but he was the favorite. He was dropping for the first time, last time out, and just didn't fire at all. If he's able to run back to some of those other races, he's arguably the horse to beat. The question is just, does he still have them in there? As far as Just Cole Ray is concerned, I was hoping with some of the other horses in here that he might actually be a little bit of a price, and you're right, that's probably not the case today. He comes out of the same race, actually, that 6% does, but he ran much better in that effort. For me, the distance is a little bit of a question with him, but I thought that he had a bit of the tactical running style in the barn with Rob Atras picking up this one is in a good groove right now.
Yeah, and he's got tactical speed. He's probably going to find himself on the lead in here, I would think, unless somebody else is going to go. I mean, maybe
there's not a lot of speed in
there's
here.
not really much signed on, so he's going to be forwardly placed in here. Like you, I'm not convinced he wants to go this far, but he does have that 2-turn form in Kentucky. That was okay. The races came up on the faster side. We'll see what happens in here with the mile and an eighth on the stretch out and first off the claim for Rob.
And I would guess probably Tommy B will be on the lead. The question with him is he actually a dirt horse? I'm still not convinced that he is, but he'll probably be on the lead. I think the one higher quality we have to discuss, because going off of the distance question, you could say that he's kind of the big standout with that race 2 starts back. Obviously, he's not the most consistent type. He had avoided claim a couple races back, but I mean, you can tell he wants to go the distance. He's not going to be one that's really far back, and if he can get the right kind of trip, and he's a quirky horse, he's a little bit difficult prior to the races, but if he can run that race 2 back, he's a player.
2 back puts him right in the mix in here. Last time out, he acted up in the post parade. He was a little, and he's gelded, so I can't say he was studdish, but he was.
He does that all the time. He kind of like props and wheels beforehand. It's very normal for him.
Yeah, he's a handful at times. He's a bad actor, but he's going to be, you know, up close, and he's got an inside post in here. A while back, going the mile, he did show a little bit of speed to be up on a sort of pace that was going 23:46. I mean, you could throw a blanket over several in here. I don't trust anybody in here.
Very tricky race in race 2, going the mile and an eighth. We go on to race 3, as this one will be 6.5 furlongs, $12,500 claiming race, 3-year-olds and upward. And there are a couple of ways to go if you want horses that are forwardly placed or potentially closers. Let's start with the speed, as Bourbon's Hope and Ensign Parker will rematch from that September 28th race. We'll take a look at them finishing 1-2.
Yeah, I mean, Ensign Parker basically had the run of the race here. He was able to shake loose, and he was able to set, even though it was a faster pace, it was a comfortable pace for him. He wasn't really challenged that much, and he was able to open up on Bourbon's Hope, who I thought ran an okay race, considering he ended up pretty wide down the lane. So, and Mr. JT wasn't too far off of them as well. I guess the question you're going to have to ask yourself in here with a horse like Ensign Parker is, with a horse like Mr. Phil in here and Bourbon's Hope on the inside and even a horse like Quick Flash, is he going to get away with what he got away with last time?
So my angle with this race is that I had written down that day on September 28th was really a day that you wanted to be forwardly placed, and the closers were really struggling. So Ensign Parker was very much with the track, and while he's not always a need the lead type, he's forwardly placed, and I thought Dylan Davis that day especially gave him an excellent ride in taking advantage of how the track was playing, while Bourbon's Hope was kind of right there, and even though he was wide, he was forward. I know that the horse that I picked in Mr. JT wasn't that far off of it, but I feel like he was far enough back that you could say he was perhaps a little bit against the flow of the track. He's picked up for Bruce Levine in here. He's got Irad Ortiz, for whatever that's worth, is staying aboard after riding him last time, and I thought he did run on a little bit, so that was a bit of my angle with him, and we'll see how it plays out. But really the wild card of this race is Mr. Phil. And we both put him second, and I think that's because he's obviously the best horse in this race on his good day. It's just dropping in for 12.5, and he's been so much off form lately.
Yeah, the last two have been really awful, and we both agree the good Mr. Phil, that was Mr. Phil, he'll bury these horses. He has
a
races.
Greatest Stakes winner.
Yeah, that will take care of this, and he's faced so much better. I also just worry, too, that if he's not fast enough and some others go, what kind of trip is he going to work out in here as well? I'm not fully sure he's going to be able to rate in the form he's been in. And again, if you want to make an excuse maybe for the last race off the little bit of the layoff, some horses get quirky when they go to Laurel sometimes over that surface, but he just was awful before that. So it's hard to know what you're going to get out of him today, and especially on that drop, because on this drop, he is supposed to beat these horses if he can still run.
And it's not just kind of a drop in class. It's a very aggressive drop in class. And I should say, it's a Greatest Stakes type, but I mean, he's a very good horse. The big question is, does he still have it? We will soon find out. Going on to race number 4, maiden claiming for $40,000, going a mile, 3-year-olds and upward in this 4th race, and we're a little bit all over in this race. I thought this was a really tricky one. Why don't you start with Collect from Ike?
I thought this race was wide open, and his dirt sprint debut, Collect from Ike, that is, he at least showed a little interest early before he kind of faded late. So subsequently, he proved a great deal when stretched out. I just want to know if it was the grass or if it was the distance that actually helped him. You know, when I saw him in the spring and summer, it's funny, and I always go back to, I think about you and Maggie and Mig all the time. It's like, this past spring and summer, I learned how to just go to the paddock and take notes and look at all of the horses. So I learned.
Very helpful sometimes.
Yeah. So when I saw him in the spring and summer, he kind of gave off that look to me of a horse that just wanted to go longer. So that's why I questioned whether or not it was the surface switch or the distance switch with him. So I like the stretch out again. He picks up Javier today. He's going to be a fair price in a race where, again, there's not much to hang your hat on to say, I trust this horse to win for me today and give you a free square. So I figured it probably 4, 5, 6 to 1. He's a horse I want to take a shot with in here.
His longer races have definitely been better. My concern with him is that with Brad Cox, with Linda Rice, he just was not able to get the job done, and you kind of wonder, being acclaimed away from those barns and now trying to find the spot. That concerns me a little bit, but look, I would not be surprised by anything in this race.
No, and the fact that also John Pregman, who does a good job, he reached out for Javier in here as well. You know, so I think that makes a little bit of difference as well. I do agree with you in the Brad Cox, Linda Rice barns. This horse didn't do much, but I just want to give this horse one shot against this group today at a fair number on the stretch out again.
I mean, look, I'm picking a horse that was eased last time out, so you really can't say much about this race. But Braggadocious is where I landed. Like I said, I know that he was eased last time, but he was just facing so much tougher than what he's going to run against today. Second place finisher, Quality Chic came back to win with an 87 Beyer speed figure. Cloud Forest, we saw win yesterday. I know he didn't show an abundance of anything prior to that either, but I'm just hoping with the drop in class, Mark Henig's barn has been going really well at a nice first-time starter win yesterday. This one is actually the half to Bravazzo, multiple grade 1 place. So there's obviously plenty of distance pedigree there, whereas you have some others that are stretching out or just have some things to prove. And this one at least is dropping in class for the first time. Yeah,
and if your horse could ever get back to that debut race, he'll be a winner in here.
Yep. Yeah, if he runs that 85 speed figure, he should win by a lot in this spot, but who knows if that'll actually happen. As far as the two Bolt de Plata, you could probably say that this one is perhaps the most, I don't know if trustworthy is the right word in this race, but coming off of the best last out effort.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I guess based on that last effort, it's the horse to beat in here. You know, it was very kind of few horses and hard to make, you know, a run sitting behind on that day on September 28th. And this horse did and ran behind Strap, who kind of had the run of the race. So I guess you could make a case there for this horse. And the race came up faster, I guess, for this level, faster for what this horse has actually run. So I guess if this horse can make one move like that and be a little bit closer again, it puts this horse in the mix in here. I guess the question is, do you want to take this horse as what may end up being favorite in here?
And then you have the 9-6 Will Be Rich. He's been exposed for maiden 20 before as well, but at least he has some speed and some decent dirt races.
You know, other than last time out, regardless of the surface, he's been improving, you know, start to start. So I actually like that. And I do like the switch back to the dirt for this horse today. So switches to Junior. He does have speed in a race where we said it's a coin flip as to who's going to go out there. So maybe from the outside, Junior can just either set up shop right outside whoever's leading or take the initiative.
First off the claim for Melanie Giddings. As we turn the page, head over to race 5. We'll break after race 5. This is one of 2 carded turf races on the card today. And so race 5 will be off the turf, will be run at a mile on the main track in this allowance. So that kind of moves us all the way to the outside with whoever stays in, and there are a couple of intriguing I should say main track only. Be very good if I could speak English today. But as far as She Caught My Eye, she's definitely the most experienced of all of the main track only runners and does have the distance foundation. Yeah,
the foundation is there for this horse. And last time out, I kind of feel like Jose had to make that move that he made into that race, and I think the horse just got a little tired late. I'm not sure the 1.25 miles was a distance that this horse wanted to go at all. So I'm just thinking today he's going to probably end up with the same kind of trip, not too far off it, or possibly even, I don't want to say on it because we have a couple of stretch out horses in here, but probably just right off the leader in here and just make one run at the lead this time and not have to make that first move and open up and get caught at a distance limitation problem.
I think it's true. And you know, the thing with the other 2 main track only runners in here, which is why I couldn't take either of them in Libin and Thought Experiment, is that I'm not concerned they want to go this far and they don't have the experience with it. Whereas She Caught My Eye does have the foundation. I just think that She Caught My Eye has been kind of dressed up and has been extraordinarily lucky. And that's kind of, you know, Linda Rice is so sharp with putting horses in as MTOs or finding dirt horses that can run when maybe there isn't much dirt for them in the race. But I mean, she doesn't really switch leads. I do think that she's better forward because I think I've written down in my notes in the past that she refuses to run through kickback. I just don't think she's really that good. She may just be able to outlast the rest of them in here, and that could be the key. But for me, she's always a tough one to trust. Yeah,
it's hard to, when you look at the other 2 main track onlys, as you said, when you look at a horse like Liven and this horse has been on the lead and shows that speed down at Gulfstream and had to be ridden hard, actually.
Really? She looked beaten last time out, actually.
And that race actually came back okay because a couple of horses came back to win. Another horse came back to run second. I guess the question is, even with Thought Experiment stretching out as well, are they going to be able to get the distance? Are they going to hook up? Is this horse going to get first run? And
well, let's watch Thought Experiment's race. As you pulled this replay, and I'm glad that you did. I know that she won, but she beat Risk Free, who we all got a lot of love for Risk Free, but Risk Free is 0 for 19.
Yeah.
She does not win, and Thought Experiment barely beat her.
And that's why I kind of pulled this race to show that fact because, you know, she was wider early. She kind of tucked in and she came wide, which was all good. You know, it was all good in the hood for this horse. First time out to be able to do that, to be able to switch out. But then when she was running down the stretch and Risk Free was
Risk Free nearly got her this day.
And that's why I'm saying, you know, it was like all out to beat Risk Free. So it's kind of hard to take this horse, and I know I have the horse in the second spot. But I just kind of figured maybe once again she'll be game to the wire, and this time maybe she'll end up on the opposite end of it. But it is hard to take that horse because when I got past that, looking at Liven, and then the horse you have on top, Royal Dame as well, I kind of was just like, oh, I don't know, with some of the races coming out of Tampa and some of the stuff, if this horse is going to be able, and where is this horse going to be placed? I know he's probably not fast enough to be on the front end. So at the end of the day, excuse me.
Yes.
This would be placed on the front end. But so after all of that, I ended up putting start mentality. Excuse me, thought experiment second.
Yeah, I completely understand the thought process there, and with She Caught My Eye, everything that we talked about, I kind of threw my hands up a little bit and said, I just don't want to take any of the main track onlys, which is not always the best way to go about handicapping a race, but I'll go with Royal Dame. I actually saw her down at Tampa, and I wrote down that day, long body will like more distance. And she won impressively to break her maiden going 1:40 down at Tampa. I know it was not a quick race, but she has run well on the main track, even though maybe she's better on turf. And she stays in here. I thought that she would be a little bit of a bigger price versus the MTOs because they're MTOs. And I'll just take a little shot with this one.
You should get a price on this horse too,
Yeah,
just based on the
that's the
connections
hope.
as well. You'll probably get it.
That's the hope. So we'll see what happens and who can withstand the mile distance in that 5th race. We'll take a quick timeout. Be back kicking things off with the 6th after this and Talking Horses.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back. You're watching Talking Horses. I can't talk today. I was at Far Hills all day yesterday, and I was attached to the set and drove back from New Jersey. I don't know how people sit in traffic going on the Lincoln Tunnel every day because it's awful. And I'm very flustered coming back today.
Okay, and it's cold in here, so
It's very cold.
she's having some issues today. Listen, at least you brought the sunshine back with you.
Yeah, it's nice out. I'm very grateful about that.
So-
But clearly, I need a little bit more sleep or coffee or something.
So you want to just leave? We'll leave now. Would they
Yeah,
get mad if we
we'll
just
just
leave
go.
now?
Yeah. That's fine. Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.
But Paul, you and I will actually be together next weekend.
Yes.
Late night. So I will really have to have my coffee there because it is past my bedtime. But covering the Breeders' Crown on
Yes,
Friday and Saturday.
Friday and
which will be
Saturday
fun.
night from
Yeah.
Hoosier Park.
Yes.
You and I at the desk.
Yep.
Gabe and Jessica will be out at Hoosier. We'll cover the Breeders' Crown. A lot of good racing, a lot of horses we've seen all year. If you've been watching, and you should have been watching, America's Day at the races that night. And we'll have a good time.
Yeah, looking
A
forward
lot
to
of
that.
divisional honors.
Yes, yeah, we're really looking forward to all of those big names coming out. But back to today, which hopefully my English will improve from now on. Race 6 coming up next to start off the late pick four. It's a $35,000 claiming race, 6 furlongs, fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward. We're both a little bit more towards the inside, but let's start with how's your cash flow. And we'll take a look at her race back in March. She started off so good sprinting. They tried to stretch her out, cut her back in distance today. This is just the right spot.
100%. That's why I picked her on top. Hopefully my cash flow is better after she runs. So those first 2 races, though, were really, really sharp races. She ran well. She looked like a sprinter. It's what she wanted to do. So she was laid off from March to September. They came back. They stretched her out, gave her a shot at the mile. It just didn't work out. She doesn't want to go the mile, the Delaware surface. Sometimes horses don't take to it first time over. They put the blinkers on today. They cut back in distance. This is the right move in the right spot. And Rudy has good numbers doing this. So it all adds up to me picking her on top in here.
And you know, it's interesting if you kind of look at a horse like this and see that she's having a lot of changes. This is something that Rudy actually does a lot.
Yeah.
He changes a lot of things at once. And sometimes it really works. It kind of wakes the horse up and kind of sharpens them with the class drop, the distance, the equipment change with the blinkers going on. So I think that she's really probably the horse to beat in here. I took a small shot with Everly's Girl, and we'll take a look at her out at Del Mar. I know that she hasn't run in a little bit, but David Jacobson has been very successful with either claiming or out of the horses of racing age sale with taking horses from California and bringing them to New York.
Yeah, and in this race, I thought she ran well. She was a little slow out of the box here, and she ended up in a spot being wide basically the entire way around. She ended up putting in that run. And she only missed by a half a length in here. She ran well, and she ran out to the wire. And I think this is one of the horses, and we see this with David a lot. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason, and it's hit or miss.
Yes.
And I think that this horse, to me, I think is a hit in here, just based on some of the races she's run out in California. So I think she's going to run well, and I think she translates to the level here, starting her off at 35,000. So we'll see what we get from her from the inside post. She's a horse that's going to probably be able to work out her own trip as long as she breaks from in there. So for me, it was a lot of 1s and 2s, and then kind of just behind them, you know, have at it, your pick.
It's kind of throw up a bunch of numbers and see what lands after that. You go to the 4 Diamond Collector in third, who did win last time out. She's stepping up to the next condition and first off the claim for Wayne Potts.
She was supposed to win that race last time out. She was bet down, and she ran well. It wasn't the fastest race that it came back, and now she's going out of the Linda Bar, and she's going over to Wayne Potts, who hasn't won at the meet, but you know, Wayne's horses, they can run sometimes here. It's another horse who I feel like if she can get a little bit faster, and things just don't work out for a couple of other horses in here, and she improves, she could be there at a price in here in a race where once you get past the 1 and the 2, I kind of had problems trying to make some other horses, maybe the 8 Cupid's Girl would be another horse for me to make, but that was really about it for me when it came to this race as far as making horses on top.
It's tricky beyond the 2 horses that we both like. Obviously, claiming away from Linda is always a concern for me. Lane Leslie, though, going to be riding here throughout the winter, which will be a very welcome addition to the Jocks Colony. I remember I was working at Gulfstream when Lane was riding down there, and he's been making a name for himself at other tracks, and happy to see him coming here to New York.
He's got a good foundation now, and now is the time for him to come back and to give it a shot here. He's been riding well at various venues, whether down south or in the Midwest or actually just wrapping up in Jersey now. So coming here for the winter, it's a good addition. I love when the winters come here and we get to see other riders, other trainers ship in.
Me too. Yeah, I definitely wish him the best of luck and happy to have him here. I go to race, I used the 5, I guess. Yes. Yeah, my picks were 2, 1, 5, 7. Is the 7 scratched? 7 is scratched.
The 7 is out.
That's
Western
That's
Lane
why.
is out.
Missed that one. There's too many scratches today. Sorry about that. So 5, Proudfoot for me. Don't love her, but at least she's just taking a drop in class.
Yeah, she's dropping down in class. And Cupid's Girl, too, a little bit for me, dropping in class here. Has good form versus tougher. Last time out coming off of the layoff, it just wasn't the right spot being in that race. This is the right drop for this horse. This horse ended up wide on a sloppy track where you kind of just didn't want to be, and she was spinning her wheels out there a little bit. So I think the drop's going to help in here, and I wouldn't be surprised if Cupid's Girl ran better at a little bit of a price today.
I completely agree. She was the one on the bubble. So 2, 1, 5, 8 for me in race number 6 with that scratch of Western Lane. We turn our attention over to the 7th race, and I think a lot of attention is going to come to the number 1 Awesome Native, and we'll take a look at his last race. It's so interesting because he was the favorite going into that turf race 2 starts back, which was just wild. And obviously, he's not a turf horse, but he did have legitimate trouble last time.
Yeah, I mean, the turf experiment I just didn't get. The trouble last time was legitimate because the horse is 3 for 5 sprinting on dirt. And, you know, maybe that was a prep, the turf race. Who knows? We'll never know the answer. But last time out, got a little unlucky because got behind horses in there in a race that was coming back to him and still ran well, only to get beat a length in there. When you put it all together, this is the right spot for a horse like this today, and this is definitely, in my opinion, way the horse to beat in here, and I just put this horse on top.
Yes, and that's 7, 1, 8, 6 for me. 6 is still in, right? I didn't lose another horse?
Nope, you're good.
7, 1, 8, 6. Yes. We're having a little glitches. Sorry about that. 7, 1, 8, 6 for me in the 7th race. And there we go. As the 1 Awesome Native, we talked about him. As far as the 7 Capone does go, I'm going to take a little shot with this guy who's making his 2nd start off of a year layoff in the trainer switch when moving to Rick Dutrow. I thought yes, he was a little one pace, but I thought he actually ran okay last time out and off of a big layoff. And I just thought that he was one that might kind of slip beneath the cracks in here. I know that Awesome Native is a horse to beat. I don't necessarily trust him. I was looking for an alternative, and the other horses all seem to be kind of early speed types with Daufusky Island and Shaky Pants, and I was hoping Capone could potentially sit the right trip.
The good thing with Capone is, I mean, he really did look like he needed the race last time out. And he's one of those horses that could sit or pounce, you know, in here. and he chased from the opening bell last time out. So I kind of probably ranked him too low in here by leaving him out of my top 4 because that's not a mistake. I did get goofy with Letty in the second spot. But in Capone's case, I think second start off of the layoff, going out for Rick Dutrow again, I think he's probably going to end up being a player or heard from late.
Letty in second. Let's hear it.
Well, listen, my whole thing with Letty is, and we've seen this before, so just humor me for a second, is
he's 30-1 on the line. I'm not gonna scoff at that at all.
Against much lesser, he's got some races that figure. We've seen it before here. Races collapse, and you end up with a 20 or 30-1 shot that ends up picking up the pieces and running second. I know Letty can run at the end. The last 3 starts were not comparable to where Letty was. Letty was really far back on the outside, then ended up trailing because got away a little bit slow, and then ended up swinging wide on a day where you probably wanted to be a little bit more inside. I'm making excuses, I know, for a horse who's going to be 40-1 probably, and probably should be every bit of more than that.
Yeah.
However, if the race really melts and falls apart, maybe Letty can get in there somewhere in the exactor or the triple for me. But I'm just trying to split hairs here. But there's some other horses that figure, like, who we have third.
Shaky Pants. We'll take a look at his last race in September. This is a horse who was chasing Digitize 2 starts back in Saratoga, who just had so much gate speed. And I thought that he just really improved so much from a physical perspective last time, second off the layoff. And that showed in the way that he ran as well.
Absolutely. And the fact that the horse that was second was a well-bet Chad Forster anyway. And I know it was a 5-horse field at the end of the day, but as you said, he just looked like he grew up and put it together, and he ran well here. It's not like he didn't, just kind of run badly. He kind of put that horse away and still ran on through the stretch. So I like that about him a lot. He does have an outside post today, which I think is going to help set up his running style a little bit as well.
And as far as Daufusky Island, we have a replay for him as well. I believe, yes, back from June, his last win when he got a 102 Beyer speed figure. And the problem with him is that he went through his New York bred conditions. And then he had a little bit of a tougher time facing open company, especially back in that July race when he stumbled out of the gate.
Even though he stumbled out of the gate in that race, like you said,
ran very well.
He ran very well in the context of the race. And the one thing about him is, as long as he semi-breaks, he's going to be a part of the pace. Now, can he get back to those races like you see on the screen here and be able to bottom out a field like this, or is he going to continue the way he's going here? So the question is, do you think he's going to get hooked in here? And with horses like Payzone in here and Bezos, if they decide to go, and Cool Kathmandu is not that slow, you just wonder what kind of trip he's going to pull from post 6 in here.
Can he turn things around? He's a cool little horse, though, for sure. Very fun New York bred. The Carl Place is next, unfortunately, off the turf. It's been very tough, especially if you have a turf sprinter, as unfortunately those races coming off. So run on the main track here for the 3-year-olds, and we'll take a look at the main track only runners. Only 2 of the 3 stay in, and they do seem to make sense. We'll start with Super Chow and his win in the Hutchison back in March.
So this was not the best edition of the Hutchinson or the hardest. No. And even the swale that he ran was not the best group of swale. But I will say this horse did run well that day based on the context of the race. And I think here as well, when you look at this race.
I just want to say, this part of him always concerns me, the hanging on the left lead, the switching of the tail. He can be a little quirky.
He could be a quirky horse, or he'd be a little quirky going down the lane. The question is, with what's left in this race and in this group, I would, barring, I guess he's going to sit off of a horse like Just Beat the Odds. And, Sir Lancelot's shown speed as well. So I'm guessing he's going to sit just a little bit off of the pace. I guess he's going to be in a good spot in here. And I guess if you're not a 90% Maddie fan, I mean, where else are you going to go? Because I just don't trust Just Beat the Odds being able to finish off the race. And as much as I like Sir Lancelot, I like Sir Lancelot a little on the turf today, just not sure he's going to get the right setup now on the dirt.
It's tough to trust these horses. I kind of begrudgingly went to 90% Maddie. Cut back in distance last time in the Gallant Bob after running longer and running against some horses that were in pretty good form and facing Il Miracolo 2 starts back in the Smarty Jones, and he hadn't sprinted since earlier this year. And so I'm just hoping that it'll be the second time in a row sprinting, finished 4th last time. Irad Ortiz takes a call for Butch Reed, and typically when Butch ships horses in, they're well meant coming to New York. And I thought this was an interesting entry, given that he entered this one as a main track only. And usually that's a pretty good move because we've had so many races off the turf. So I will take a shot with this one.
No, when Butch sends in, he sends in with a purpose all the time. And more times than not, the horses run exceptionally well. Irad should fit this horse pretty well. And if you can get back to some of those sprint races later on last year, I mean, this horse ran well in those races. They may not be as fast as Super Chow on some of those races, but some of those figures from Gulfstream were tough to trust sometimes. Yeah. You kind of have to look at the times and the run-ups of what they're doing. I don't know. I mean, I guess he's going to be probably in the same spot as Super Chow, and they're going to run to the wire and see if they take over the lead. I mean, Just Beat the Odds is probably, I guess, a little bit faster than Sir Lancelot.
Do you think even with the blinkers coming off?
It'll be interesting to see
who's on the lead.
Who's on the lead in here, because I'm just looking, you know, when you look at like Just Beat the Odds, I mean, he's out there on those paces that are 21, 22. He's up there. He's about a length off the lead. Sir Lancelot, in the Gallant Bob last time out, I just don't think he was able to, you know, he's run on 2 sloppy tracks before. He just really didn't finish in either one of those races, but he cut the paces in 21s. So maybe he's going to get the outside run on Just Beat the Odds, who's right off of him on the inside. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, when you get these small fields, sometimes they end up bunched together somehow, and they don't spread themselves out.
Yeah, it's a rider's race. We wrap things up in a good way with New York-bred 2-year-old fillies going 7 furlongs on the main track. And I, like you, not trying to beat Dolomite. We'll take a look at her first race. She, yes, was beaten as the favorite. My Main Squeeze, though, had more foundation, and Dolomite had legitimate trouble.
Yeah, there was legitimate issues here. You could see as they go down the backstretch a few seconds, she's going to be steadied out of there and check out of there. And once she does that, she kind of got taken out of the race, but to her credit, there it is right there. You see you lose her behind the bush a little bit. But once she got running again as they turned for home, she actually put in a good run in this race. You know, she's bred to be a good one. Sunset Ridge was a stakes winner, and My Main Squeeze did have the foundation in that race. For what it's worth, Chad Brown's 7 for 32. The $1.69 ROI, second-time maidens out in dirt sprints. So when you put all that together, and the way that she still ran when she could have easily given up after having the trouble that she had and taking the kickback that she had as well, still ran on to be a clear second in there. I just put her on top in here over a horse who actually comes out of the same race that she beat in there. Money Grab.
Yeah, Money Grab finished 4th in that race. Carol T finished 3rd. I think that they're both worthy of being up there as well. Carol T, I think, would be a little bit more trustworthy if she didn't have that last race at Parks. Maybe it was the wet track. Maybe it was the open company. I don't know. And she was kind of up close in that debut race, but she ran so much better on debut than she did last time.
Yeah, I don't think she was very comfortable in the slot when you watch it. She didn't look it. Like, she just looked like she did not have like that for that feeling like I just don't want it. Like, I want no part of this today. And I think that's why she ran a little bit worse. I think she'll run better today. So, I mean, you know, we'll see what happens. Money Grab for me was the other horse. You know, for what it's worth, Horatio De Paz is 10 for 43 with a 235 ROI. Second-time starters on the dirt the last 5 years. Took some money in that debut race. I think that horse, though, is probably going to need to show a little bit more speed and be a little bit more forward today to make a little bit of an impact. But those 3 runners that came out of that race, I think, are solid unless you're looking at some firsters.
And it's unfortunate because I knew we both liked the 2 firsters to the outside a little bit. But Collect the Data, probably the one that will take the most attention of a first-time starter. This is the other Chad Brown runner who they bought for $130,000 at the New York Bred Yearling sale last year. Decent dirt sprint pedigree. Second dam was a multiple graded stakes winner. Chip was pretty good sprinting on the dirt.
Yeah, it was good sprinting.
Yeah.
The thing, too, about the dam, too, was 4 for 5 with the winners with Foals, too. But the thing with Chad, though, the stat with Chad, for everything he does good, the stat on this one was he's only 2 for 16 with a $1.23 ROI with state-bred 2-year-old first-time starters in the last 5 years. So
interesting. Can't be good at everything, right?
Yeah, listen, when you have an embarrassment of riches like Chad does.
Right.
I still want to get Chad on one of his horses, like we do with Ake Svanstedt with the harness. to drive. We got to get Chad on one of his horses, one of his hang-me-ons. Come on, Chad, you got to get on that. But Collect the Data, to me, I thought was a horse you could gravitate to. I thought Scarlet Stream at a price was another horse you could gravitate to, the 9 on the outside. If you look at this horse, you know, they paid $70,000 for this horse. The horse worked 10 2/5 at the sale.
I did not like that 2-year-old workout.
Yeah, you were
personally.
crazy. I know, they do it for speed, but I'm just, you know, I'm looking at it. The Cloud Jumper has 2 dirt winners from 4 foals, 10% with Matoli. Sprinters, for what it's worth, Pat Reynolds is 3 for 14 with a 2 and change ROI the last 5 years. You don't think of Pat too much with first-time starters.
Yeah,
but
I can certainly
runs
have one
them
ready.
And he can have them ready. Just looking for some prices behind what I think is probably going to be a pretty big favorite in Dolomite, I would think, in here and now.
We'll see if she can get the win second time out, wrapping up the card with a good one with those New York bred 2-year-olds. That's the 9-race card on this Sunday. And that'll do it for Paul and I for now. Just want to remind everybody, Bet Naira with Naira Bets. You can sign up, get started, use promo code CUP25, get a $25 free bet, plus that $200 sign-up bonus. As always, check out NairaBets.com for more details. Hit a trifecta at Belmont at the Big A, and you could get a 10% bonus. You have to opt in at NairaBets.com. There's always all kinds of great promos going on over there. Make sure you opt in. We have a middle pick 4 today, as is always the case, and don't miss out on that. Lots of great betting opportunities throughout the afternoon. And finally, America's Day at the Races will kick off at 12:30. 12:30 to 3 on FS2, 3 to 5 on FS1. Paul, great job as always.
Always fun. We're going to go warm you up now, get you out of this cold room,
Yes.
get her a cup of coffee.
I'm gonna get a coffee. I will need that. I'll be back out in the paddock reporting for the first 2 races.
Oh, so you can't even catch a break. Well, listen, it is probably warmer
It's
outside
sunny.
than it is in this room.
I'm 100% certain it's
See?
warmer outside than it is. Our cameraman Kyle agrees.
Kyle agrees.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. We'll send it up to John Imbriale. He's standing by with a reprise of today's scratches and changes. Good luck today, everyone.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.